Gonna be our first ride and review of the Hotwired 12-volt gloves from Cycle Gear. You see a lot of information on their website. You know, they only score about 3.9 stars, but I figured, hey, we'll give it a try and see how this goes. And I don't normally do gear reviews, so you'll have to excuse me if I'm not completely professional here. But with a with the RPM rider discount, it brings them down to like 160-ish, something like that. Right now I've got them on medium heat. So far they're doing pretty well. I would say they're extremely comfortable. Now keep in mind I do have these bark busters here as well, which help a little bit with the wind, but not too much. I'm noticing here in Virginia it's about 38 degrees, and with a normal SMX gloves, your hands just suffer. There is no saving that. So we're gonna hop on the freeway here and see if see how they hold up even on medium. I may change the power settings back to like high, you know. I will say though, so far I'm not noticing any chill in my hands whatsoever. In fact, they're very warm even on medium. The liners are extremely comfortable themselves, very soft. So I would say that's definitely a positive. I was generally on the fence too between the Gerben or Gerben or however it's pronounced. You know, but those are running $140 plus the $90 harness, or $250 for the S7. And you know, I didn't want to drop $250 on something that only had like, you know, 3.5 or less stars on the website. It just seemed to me like potentially a really bad. Yeah, and like I said before, the main reason I even wanted to do this video in general, I'm not good at talking to cameras, and a lot of my content across the board, even on TikTok and things like that, all I do is I ride with my friends, and if something dumb happens, I'll post it online. We don't stage anything. I'm not going out of my way to create content or videos. I just always have the cameras on me, and if stuff happens, it happens. But I figured with the lack of information online about heated gloves, and the only information I was really able to find consistently was people in the EU, a lot of people in Europe, where they have you know, other brands, and you know, they rain a lot. Like, do you value waterproofing? Do you value the heat? Do you want wired or battery? I went with wired just because I heard that now again, this is all word of mouth from what I've read online and in Reddit posts, which, you know, how much can you trust those? Was that the wired ones, typically because they're a 12-volt, that they can get hotter, and that you don't ever have to worry about changing a battery or your gloves dying while you're on the road, which sounds phenomenal to me. Because I'm extremely forgetful. I forget to charge my camera batteries all the time, and you know, screw it. If I can just plug some cables into my jacket and call it a day, then we're good to go. Install was super easy with the SAE battery tender adapter. My bike came with a battery tender on it. If yours doesn't, don't worry, all the wires for these gloves come in the box, so you don't have to worry about buying any extra wires or hardware, which is really nice. And so far, yeah, my hands are still extremely warm. You know, we're doing the speed limit, and everything is comfortable. I have zero complaints. If anything, my torso is actually cold, but my hands are nice and toasty. I know there's not much I can say within the 15 minutes or so that I'm actually doing this, but yeah, zero complaints so far, aside from they did mention online, I heard a couple product reviews say that the thumbs felt long. Now keep in mind, I'm a 2X. I think I measured like 9 inches across the palm and 4-inch middle finger length or something like that. So the 2X actually fits me perfectly, with the exception of the thumb does stick out a little bit, and I've noticed that right off rip, touching the buttons is not always the easiest thing. You gotta kind of find your groove with the buttons, but I guess that's normal with any new glove setup. Other than that, the liner's very comfortable. The leather palm does feel nice. We'll see how well that holds up over time, but like, you know, if you're doing, you know, 10-15 minute quick rides, or you're commuting to work, I would say the battery is probably the way to go, just with the ease of, not assembly, but the ease of installation onto your body with the battery stuff is definitely significantly easier. However, you do run the risk of running out of batteries, so if you're the kind of person that likes to go on long rides with no general direction or goal, you're just going to ride, I would definitely recommend the wired version, as again, there is no battery life, you just wear them. But every time you get off your motorcycle, you do have to remember to unplug yourself. Yeah, I would say throttle feel, you know, some people online said that the gloves could tend to be a little on the bulkier side. I agree, they do have a little bit of bulk to them, not kind of like a winter glove, like a ski glove or something like that, but it's not horrible. Throttle feel is still what I would consider to be acceptable. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of my Dainese gauntlets, along with my SMX2 Alpine gloves that I've had for years, aside from the Velcro that decides to shit itself every 6 months. But I would say it's definitely acceptable. It's not uncomfortable or concerning to the point where I wouldn't want to use them. Kind of see how they do. Let's see, 2 clicks. That one's on red. Coast down this hill. It's kind of a tricky song and dance here while I'm actively coasting. Turn them on high, see how hot they get. Ooh, immediately significantly warmer. I did not look at any of the product specifications for where heat goes in the hand. I know that they have some like carbon filament or something in the fingers. I don't notice any warmth on my palm. But at the same time, I don't feel any cold either, so yeah, we'll have to see how well these hold up long term, or if, you know, I may have to get out and do a you know, if this video gains any traction, I might end up doing a follow-up one later on down the line for, you know, longevity. How's the stitching, how's the, you know, the heaters, do they shit out on you after 3 months, are they any, like, you know. Yeah, again, I think too, another misconception with heated motorcycle gloves is that people believe, oh, I'm gonna get these nice heated gloves and my ride is going to feel like I'm on some kind of, you know, beach vacation, and my hands are going to be perfectly warm and there's going to be zero discomfort, and it's just not the case with motorcycle gloves usually. Heated gloves for the most part are going to stave off the wind and the chill and keep your hands at a reasonable temperature so that they don't hurt, which these are doing very adequately, I might say. They're doing very well. I know if I were in my SMXs right now, and I just did this ride the other day, if I were in my SMXs, my hands would be hurting very badly. Fit is good. I heard some people complaining about the cuffs online, not being able to go under jackets or over jackets. With the wired models, you have to basically run them under the gloves so that the wires run through your sleeves instead of outside your cuffs. But no, these, I didn't have an issue with these going under my cuffs at all. And then the cuffs on the gloves, the actual wrist straps, I don't find them to be too tight or too loose. And even with the poles, the only cold I feel on my body right now is in my chest. Again, though, I'm wearing a vented Sedici jacket, which is of questionable quality. I've had it for about 2 seasons now, and I would say it does the trick, but it definitely isn't the highest quality piece of material I've ever had. And then underneath that, I'm just wearing a regular cotton hoodie, so I'm not really in the best of gear for this adventure, let's say. Especially for those of us that have battery tenders included with our bikes when we buy them, or if you've already installed one. If you live in a cold area and you park your bike a long time of the year, you probably already have one. Installation for these gloves took me all of 15 seconds. It took me as long as it took me to pop the seat off and plug in the SAE adapter and then put the seat back on. So the time of installation really was not inconvenient in the slightest. Hopefully the issues with, I don't know if it's quality control or if people just didn't like the fit, or you know why someone might have given it 1 or 2 stars, I'm not sure. I would give it maybe I'd give it a 4.5. I'd give it a 4.5 because obviously nothing's perfect. But for the price, and with, you know, if you're an RPM member or whatever at Cycle Gear, you get an extra 10%. I think they also do 10% if you're a veteran. So if you are a veteran, you get like 20% off, and that would knock even more off the price. Yeah, definitely good.